I want to get back to the Blazers in general, not just the game against the Milwaukee Bucks, but there was some audio that came out of the post game that I thought was pretty telling, both from Anthony Simons and from Deni Avdija. Both those guys played incredibly well last night. And usually when he has some games that he goes off, he just kind of nukes from three. He hit the shot making for him last night was incredible. It was just pull up after pull up after pull up after runner after floater. It was like, oh, this is really good basketball. And for a night,
you know who had a good run of that too is Shaden Sharp.
Yeah,
he came right off the bench. A couple threes, just bop bop.
And I think he got started with his first shot was a dunk.
Mm-hmm.
Right down the lane, packed it, and then he goes to the pull up two. Then he goes to the three, and you're like, and then another pull up, and you're like, oh hey, aggressive Shaden. I like this guy. But I want to start with Deni because Deni last night, number one, there's some fun stuff here, but there was a little thing that came out of this about his role and how he sees things for him and how they've changed this season.
I think I played well. I don't know. Like every game is different. Every game, like I do different things. Like you need me for different things. One game I'm defending a little bit better. One day I'm driving a little bit better. So maybe in a complete game, yeah, it was my best game.
It's a very simple line, but Chauncey Billups was asked if he thought that was Deni's best game. And Chauncey was like, he hesitated a little bit, but I could see, yeah, it was his highest scoring game. He was also really good as a rebounder, and maybe his assists were down a little bit, but you could say it was his best game. And I just thought it was it was a very interesting way of framing it. Because he kind of like did you think it was my best game? Like, and not in like a bad way, but just like, I think he takes a step back and thinks about things very differently. Not just points, not even box score stuff. It's that his game is so malleable.
I think that's the reason why I would appreciate having Toumani Camara and Deni Avdija being guys that are building block guys. And even Donovan Clingan, with what he has said at such a young point in his career, just 34 games in, is the fact that these are guys that points don't matter.
No.
And even though points can be seen as what dictates a good game or a bad game, that is not what they determine a good game or a bad game. It is what have we done to help a team win. Now, that is also the big issue with having too many of guys like that on your roster. Having those three as building block guys and all of them being 24 years old or younger, that is huge to have if you're the Portland Trail Blazers because, all right, they're going to be around for a few more years. But when you get the star, those guys seamlessly kind of fit in to playing alongside somebody that is better and will take more touches. But having a guy like Deni Avdija who can say, was that my best game? Yeah, you dropped 30, dude, and you were all over the place and instrumental to beating the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, it was a pretty good game. I think those guys are wildly valuable moving forward. You just need to land the big fish, or they're just a bunch of guys in the NBA. They're the Jags, right? Just a guy.
I'd stop you there for a split second, just because I think Deni is above that. I think he's got the capacity to be one of the best role players, and I'm not going to cap him. It's very unlikely. I see him as a guy like a forward version of Derek White or a Drew Holiday or an Andre Iguodala. All very different players, but like the connecting piece where if he made an all-star game once in his career, a Mike Conley, a Jeff Teague, it wouldn't surprise me. Though,
yeah,
I'm not saying it's again very unlikely, but I think he's a guy that when he's fully actualized and in his prime, you're looking at a guy that's like 18, 8-5, 20, 8-5, like
yeah,
insanely good numbers while also being able to do what makes him unique is he's 6'9", he's 245 pounds, and he can dribble, pass, shoot, and defend.
Right.
How many players are there like that in the NBA?
Well, that's why I'm saying all of those guys that you mentioned play alongside stars. And like that's the thing is that you'd forget about them had they not been next to a star to where it's like, yes, what is he connecting? Because right now in Portland, he's not connecting much. In Washington, wasn't connecting anything, right? And so you're connecting the star in elevating their game. That's all I'm saying in that. I agree with you in that, yeah, he is far better than that. But if you don't put that star around him, he'll get lost. And he'll just be like, he was a good player.
Just a
on
good player.
bad team. Yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting, just how malleable he can be.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about him where, I've heard some people in the John Hollinger was like, I don't get it. Like, why would they make that trade for him? He's I don't know if he's too old for them. I was like, he turned 24 2 weeks ago. 24. He's not in his prime for another 3 years. And he's on an incredible contract, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But the whole idea of kind of like where he is and how he has grown to fit in with this team, I thought was a really interesting insight. And I don't know, I'm searching for the right word for it. It's promising that he's able to process that.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? Anthony Simons got up there and he has asked a couple things about getting up for the game, but the thing that I really want to get to was he was asked I think it was the last question of his press conference. He was asked about how he thinks Shaden Sharp has handled coming off the bench.
I think he's been handling well. Obviously, it's going to be it's going to be tough for him for sure. Just naturally, for any situation, no matter what. And it just is time to stand up and show who he is as a person, as a player, and to go out there and be himself. I think that's what to me, I think, quote unquote adversity, shows true character. And for him, if it's adversity, then you got to stand up and show who Shaden is. You know what I mean?
That's something that I think Ant would not have said a couple years ago, but he was very blunt and honest and about kind of where he looks at Shaden. And Ant has told me, like, I've had talks with Shaden about, getting a bad defensive label. You don't want to get that label because no matter what you do, there's nothing you can do to get that stink off of you. You can't. So he has been a guy who was like, and I think the team in general is.
I think Anthony Simons saw that from Damian Lillard.
But
that was the thing about Dame was not nearly as bad and is not nearly as bad of a defender as he was at the beginning of his career. He'll never get that stink off of him though.
No. And Ant had said he's told me plenty of times that he wishes he would have understood that sooner because you're told as a young guy you'll get paid for offense, and that's for the most part that's true.
True.
If you want to make money in the NBA, score. It's Ant just
get those points up.
Ant got $100 million out of it. It's tried and true. But if you want to stick and you want to have an impact, you got to focus on the other stuff. And Ant has said it took too long. And I think all of the guys that are on the team that are not even just Ant, Jeremy, Rob, I think any of the guys that have been in the league for 4 years or more understands what Chauncey is trying to do with Shaden right now. For all of the people I can't understand why Shaden Sharp is coming off the bench. It's malfeasance. It's a travesty. No, it's not. I'd argue that what Chauncey Billups is doing is the most important thing for Shaden Sharp. Because if he doesn't figure this out, if he doesn't understand it, he's not going to be capable of being the guy that he could be.
Yep. And part of a tank is also you have to be able to develop some of the guys that you may want to lean on. But also it's protecting them from themselves at times too, so you can get assets for them if that time comes where, the right package does come to light and somebody wants Shaden Sharp, right? And getting the best value out of that is continuing to get the best interest. And a lot of people just want guys thrown out onto the floor to suffer, and that's not how you're going to grow your team. I want losses just as much as everybody else because I want the best odds to win the lottery. But at the same time, you cannot do that, and because if you do not take it seriously as an organization, the development and well-being of the players who are getting, yes, their paychecks are from the organization, so they need to fall in line. But you lose so much credibility with players if you intentionally run it into the ground, and it takes a very long time to get that stink off. And right now with the Blazers, I'm nervous. They got 18 wins right now.
Yeah.
They got 18 wins. I'm nervous about that.
No, nervous is the right way to be.
At this point in the year, if you're right and they can strip this thing down better than anybody else, At the end of the day, they'll have one of the worst 5 records in the NBA. That's where you want to be.
Mhm.
It is a lottery. There is no guarantee that if
Hope
you are the
and pray.
worst team, you get the number 1 pick anymore. You sure want to be in that bottom 5, and hope in the bottom 3 would be great. But you still have to have some tact in the way you do it. Like, it's nervous. Like, it is a nervous time right now because they peel off a few more wins. You shot yourselves in the foot in what is a really good draft.
No, you're 100% right, and that's what I keep trying to emphasize. You cannot get worked up about it now. When they cross over that threshold, the year the Spurs won the lottery for Wemby, how many wins did they have?
I have no idea.
It's 22.
Okay.
It was like, well, the Spurs steered into the skid. It's the exact number I've been saying from the jump because you're not going to Wizards this thing. The Spurs didn't Wizards this thing. Like, you can't. The Wizards are doing this because they've got 40 years of stink.
Yeah.
That's why they're doing this.
Wait, that was 22, 23, the
Yeah.
2022-23 draft? Yeah, they had 22 wins that year, but it was the second worst record in
Yes,
the NBA.
but
Like, the
again-
second worst record, that inherently
Mhm.
gives you better odds, though.
But look at the team at the bottom.
It's Detroit.
Okay, what happened to
Detroit.
them?
They were, what, 5th?
Mhm.
Yeah. They got bumped back.
They got bumped
And-
back
but-
year after year after year, and that's what
but
I'm saying.
1, 2, and 3
Yeah, you have better odds.
the equal odds across the board. That's where you want to be.
It's a 4% better odd than fourth. 4%.
Yeah. But, I mean,
Again,
it's better.
I understand the math, but this is not what it was 2019 and
Mm-mm.
previous.
No, it's
If
not.
this is pre-process Sixers, I would say drive this thing, go 0-82 because the value is there. The value isn't there for 4%. It's just not.
Yeah.
So,